Good morning. Welcome to the Civic Pulse with David Bonior, Stephen Briggs, and Brian Brady. You notice we have a third co-host now for the Civic Pulse. We're very excited to add Stephen Briggs to this show. But David and I felt we were getting a little predictable. So Stephen, we're counting on you to be to spice this up. Stephen is a DC native. He's a father, son, a restaurant owner, and just a interesting, brilliant guy who we're excited to have talk politics, sports, and everything else that comes on the Civic Pulse. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great to see you. How are you both doing today?
I'll tell this real quickly. I couldn't find my charger for my iPad, so I've been frazzled all morning. And because I left it at another place because of the weather crisis that we have around the country. And so I've been hunting all over the apartment building here, trying to find one, down to the front desk, knocked on neighbors' doors. Finally got one. And then when I brought it into the apartment, there was mine. Yes, mine was already here. So beyond that shaky start, I'm fine, I'm fine.
It's like looking for your glasses and finding them on your head.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stephen, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. Just wondering why I'm not living in the tropics. That's all. This is not not my kind of weather here right now.
Yeah. Really is a tough one. I mean, it's not going to disappear. This ice isn't going to melt for what? I don't know. I don't want to panic people, but another month maybe.
Yeah.
It's really in there. Some friend of mine described it as a snowcrete. Maybe that's a common term now that's being used, but I saw it the other night on an email when it's just frozen cars in, and getting out of this thing is just going to be something else. Well,
I've been from, I'm in Chicago, so you guys, I'm just going to kind of give you a little sad violin, DC cold is not cold.
Well, that is true.
As a Michigander, I can sympathize with you. But this is cold.
But we are, the Midwest is a little more equipped to handle the cold. So
right. Except when it wasn't. Jane Byrne, the mayor of Chicago.
Oh, yeah, that's a famous election. Well, let's hop into it. There's a lot of news. The news is always spinning crazy fast.
Yeah.
And, the big news since we last talked was Alex Brady was murdered with many videos showing what occurred. And I don't think we need to get into the details of what occurred. But I'm curious, Stephen and David, people are talking about this as a turning point, as a pivot point. But we've seen with Trump, we always think there's a turning point and then we're back where we started. But do you think this is a turning point for the country?
For the country?
For the country, for defeating Trumpism?
I'll let Stephen start if you like, and then I'll jump in a little bit.
I mean, I'll hit on it quickly, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Trump factor. It is, as much as I hate the guy, he's great at manipulating the topics, moving people off of things. I mean, obviously, we all talk about how he's tried to move people off the Epstein files with other, with Greenland and all kinds of other crazy stuff. So the move to move Homan in and pull, Bovino and Noam kind of out of it, you felt like it did make a huge difference. But then within a day, when he's at this world premiere of this blockbuster movie, Melania, he basically says, "Oh, we're not going to reduce the number of ICE agents." So you just wonder whether, just bringing in somebody who's got a different tone and a different approach, he's just trying to kind of calm it down, but still kind of keep moving along. So I don't know whether, I think for people like ourselves, it was a big moment, but I think he's going to try to just change the narrative a bit. And I don't know how much it's going to affect everything.
I think Stephen's really hit on a really great point, that he's he's really skilled at changing the narrative for whatever reasons. He may have 5 or 6 balls into the air, and he's a good distractor. When I say good, I say that in parentheses because I don't perceive what he's doing as anything virtually that he's done is good. But he is a manipulator. And is this a turning point, the death of Alex Preddy and Mrs. Good? I don't know. I think you have to think of them together. At least I am anyway. It's horrific what happened to both of them. But one thing I do know is that it has helped. It has mobilized the community against Trump and his lawlessness. And to that extent, it could be. I mean, just last night, there was an election in Texas for a state representative seat, state Senate seat, I believe it, in Fort Worth area, which was conservative area. Trump had won that by 17 points.
Yeah.
And it went to a Democrat. And by a decent margin, too. It wasn't necessarily close. So I'm thinking it could be. I mean, I'm looking at the elections in November, which were very positive for progressives and for Democrats. We're getting the independent vote, which is really critical in all of this. We're getting our people out because it's generated a lot of interest and excitement and outrage, as justifiable outrage, as we're seeing in the streets, huge crowds in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Oregon, you name it, Portland, all over the country. And so that it could be a turning point on the plunge of the president, but we don't know yet. He's Houdini in some ways because he's been able to escape. But we even know that Houdini didn't finally escape. He met the fate of all of us at the end. So we'll see what happens.
Liam Ramos, I also want to shout out the name. He's the 5-year-old Ecuadorian boy who ICE in Minneapolis picked up at school, used as bait to grab the father, who was actually in legal proceedings, asylum proceedings, right?
Yeah.
And then they've incarcerated Liam and his father in Texas. And a judge in West Texas just ruled against them in a really fiery ruling.
Them being the administration.
The administration, yeah. And I encourage people to go to Axios and read a little bit about this ruling. But he cites the Declaration of Independence, that swarms of officers to harass our people sounds, rings in our history, and that we, the people, are hearing echoes of that history. Observing human behavior confirms that some among us, the perfidious lust for unbridled power and the imposition of cruelty in its quest knows no bounds and are bereft of human decency. And he goes on to quote some Bible verses from Matthew. This is a kind of an unusual ruling from a judge to go after a presidential administration in such terms. And I know he's a Clinton appointee judge, but this is West Texas. It's a sign of the times. David, this is going to go into a political battle. Trump called Schumer and cut a deal to keep the government from closing down, but the give, it sounds like, was to separate the Homeland Security budget into a separate negotiation where they can start to try to rein in ICE. What if you're in Schumer's shoes, and you've been in these shoes before, not exact shoes, but in the room where it happens, what leverage do you have, and what are you trying to get out of Trump and the Republicans at this moment?
Well, it seems to me that one of the things you're trying to do, maybe the primary thing, is to try to get some sense and law and order into what is happening, and particularly in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And so the way to do that is to rein in ICE. And the way to rein them in is to take on their abuses, which have been, not just in that area, all over the country. Mm-hmm. And just in my own community, out here in the D.C. area, and even in Michigan. We've had problems where they have taken people off the streets indiscriminately, profiling people, breaking windows in their cars and yanking them out and then locking them up. It's just been horrific. And a very small percentage of any of these immigrants has been involved in criminal activity that warrant that. Very small, and almost infinitively small. So I would say Schumer's got a good hand to play here in these negotiations, because everybody's going to agree with him. Pretty much everybody that believes in law and order. Make sure that, for instance, they're unmasked. That there's transparency. You can't have people running around in masks and picking people off the streets. That's what we've had, and that's why you're seeing partially such outrage. Making sure that, you know, if they're wearing a camera, that it's on. They should be wearing one, because for actually the way they're doing it. Making sure they have the right papers to go after people, not so that they just don't leave to indiscriminately to all these new ICE people, who, by the way, that organization within the government has been given huge amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard billions of dollars. I don't know how active that is, but they're full of resources, and making sure that all of that is within the bounds of reason and law. And so, yeah, I think Schumer has a good hand to play, and so does Jeffries, who's the leader of the House. And I think they should stand strong because all of these things now, as we have seen play out, are what is needed given this crisis that we're in.
Stephen, there's a debate on the left side of the aisle here about whether the New Republic is, on one hand, Perry Bacon saying all these are the Democrats are underbidding, and these putting cameras on ICE officers and unmasking them is not nearly enough. We've seen with throughout history that curbing police behavior is much different. And they also said, if you don't reduce the 13th, ICE numbers, but then others say that this is the strongest Schumer's ever been in negotiations and actually got a deal. So there's people on the left praising Schumer, and some saying no, they're underbidding already. What do you think, Stephen?
I mean, I guess I would. I don't know whether Schumer's in the strongest position possible. I mean, they did get a lot of funding through the big beautiful bill, so they have money and funding, and so I mean, I'm always, and I'm not, as my wife would say, I'm not. I might say I'm always right, but I am usually not right. I don't think you can shoot for the moon on this kind of in this kind of situation. I think you got to go and get what you can get. And as David said, you just go for those things that at least will show some accountability in the body cameras, showing their faces, the warrants about, whether it's an administrative kind of warrant or whether it's a judge's warrant. I mean, those kinds of things are at least steps in the right direction. And I think you kind of have to take what you can get when you don't have the House and the Senate. It's really kind of like, let's make some changes, and then maybe, and after the midterms, then you can really kind of dive into it and start, because I'm hoping we'll take back one or two of the houses, and then we're in a much better situation.
That's reasonable. I think that's a good approach that you've outlined, Stephen.
I mean, if we can unmask these agents, I know it won't stop everything, but at least fascism does rely on some anonymity, right? And
right.
Speaking of the F word, fascism, I know I've talked to some academics who've been a little nervous about throwing that word around. And some people have said slave patrols are actually the right analogy for ICE at the moment. But we also have the administration going into Fulton County, the DOJ under Trump's orders, and grabbing ballots. We have Don Lemon and other Black journalists being arrested, right? Just this ICE repression. So is this early stage fascism? What analogy, what verbiage do you put on this when you guys talk to your friends and colleagues about it? What do you compare this to?
I'm not afraid to compare it to fascism because that's what it is. And early stage fascism, maybe more than early. And so I think we have to really, that's why a lot of the country is outraged about this, because they see where this has been heading now since 2016, when he took office for the first time. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's restricting basic civil liberties. It's doing the thing that you quoted the judge as talking about earlier. And, by the way, you said the judge in the case of Carlos, the little boy.
Yeah, Liam Ramos, yeah.
Yeah, in Dilley, Texas. By the way, a detention center that I'm familiar with down there. You mentioned he quoted from Matthew in the Bible. I'm probably, I don't know, but I imagine he's quoting from Matthew 25, which is kind of the heart of social and Catholic social teaching.
I have the two Bible verses here.
Yeah.
Let the little children come to me, and John 11:35, Jesus wept.
Well, no, it wasn't Matthew 25. I
good
use
ones,
Matthew 25 a lot, and I know it wasn't that. Well, that's good. That's good. He's broadening it out. Good for the judge. And good for Carlos and his father. At least they're out of that facility.
Tuesday, I think. Yeah.
Tuesday, is that when they're going to leave them out?
Yeah. Stephen, what do you describe this insane times?
I mean, I certainly fascism fits it. When I'm talking to people, we just call it Trumpism, and because it's just clear Trump he's settling all his old scores. He doesn't care how it's done. He's just openly saying it in public, and telling his people what to do, and it's scary. There's no doubt. I am impressed by those that take him on. The public figures that do, but we need more of those people that are out there doing that, that have a real face in this country, so that people can really see what it is.
I was impressed. I'm not really the biggest Springsteen fan. I like him, but I'm sort of down on the Democrats using celebrities to try to get votes. Right? I think that has not worked. But Springsteen, Streets of Minneapolis, that's
pretty good. Yeah.
It made me think we need to stop having celebrities give speeches at events. Just create some art, right? Like Will I Am for Obama. That's what they do best. Don't have them go give speeches. Good point. It's actually a really darn good song, that Streets of Minneapolis song. I was impressed.
It is. It's a great song.
Two other political notes. And David, you and I have disagreed a little bit about the Epstein files maybe being something, the economy stupid, healthcare second, right? Affordability, that's how we win back things. But Alex Pretty's two things that I think are going to cause erosion, and I'm curious if you both agree with me, in the MAGA base even, and definitely the independent, is the handgun that Alex Pretty had that was taken, and Trump coming and speaking out, he shouldn't bring a gun to a political protest. The second one is just these Epstein files really show that the administration is filled with people who are hanging out with Epstein after he was convicted in 06, 07 on that sweetheart deal. That all those guys, Lutnick, just a whole cabal of them, we're still partying and looking to get with girls and rape, either rape or be with underage girls or very young girls at that time. So it feels like there is a little bit. Those are the two issues that might be cracking through that 35%, 40% base of Trump. But do you think that has any impact? I'm curious. You guys think that will have any impact in the long run?
Well, I'll jump in here because Stephen, Brian, and I have had disagreements on this on previous shows. I just have said in the past that Trump is really a magician in getting out of these legal dilemmas he finds himself in, often related to women. And so I just didn't want us to be distracted by all of this and then forget about how we got to the dance. And we got here by the question of basic stuff: healthcare, affordability, housing affordability, good, decent jobs. Those are really key, and that's what pollsters tell us are number one for people in the country. But having said that, I realize the significance of this. This is pretty, as Brian has said, pretty powerful stuff when you're dealing with women and girls in the fashion that obviously it appears from the mountain of documents and the type of people at the tops of our government and industries that have been involved with Epstein. So I think that it just colors the chaotic and selfish nature of the Trump administration more. And I think, of course, from a political perspective, that's if you're a progressive, that's not a bad deal. Although you wish you wasn't there, but that's who they are, and this helps demonstrate who they are. So to have it before us is probably good. We've got 9 months before we have a shot at getting back one of the branches of government, and so we'll see. Anyway, that's my assessment of it.
And I would just throw out from a different angle, as having talked with a bunch of my Republican friends about these kinds of things. It's when we all know that we all get our information from different outlets, and it's where you're getting your info that matters. So I think for independence, it's a big thing, but for the other 40%, that MAGA base, they're getting all their stuff, all their information from networks and from outlets that are painting a whole different picture of all of this. And so when you talk to people who really, they may be a little less, all in on Trump, but they are seeing these things from totally different angles. And so even with the Brady killing, I talked to two, and they were like, well, I don't know whether it was actually, what you're saying. And I'm like, it's clear that's what it is, but that's not what they're seeing. It's not what they're seeing on the networks that they watch. It's not what they're reading.
Yeah.
They're obsessed about things that Trump's throwing out about the need for Greenland. I mean, it's just kind of like you're baffled by it, but that's what they're seeing. And so I don't think that it's going to be something that changes that group at all.
But if it's helpful, it's worth having out there for the sake of the issue itself and justice for the victims. But it's also politically helpful because independents are key.
Yeah, and the last thing is, I think, is if those women are out there,
right,
constantly pushing it and talking about where are these men, why aren't those names out there? That's the most important part of this, and that's the only thing that's really going to keep, maybe get some more of those people that aren't following it.
and yet increased turnout and base support for those who are opposed to Trump on this and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The podcast bros, where I'm picking up the most, I have who were pro-Trump, the Rogans, and then the different, it's a lot of podcast bros streaming to the lonely young men and older men on this country. A lot of them have seemed to have flipped, and I put them in that independent category. And I think this gun issue, is a big one. Like, people are. Trump saying being I think that is also going to come back and bite Trump too in the midterms. One last thing on politics, and before we pivot here, is that Fulton County raid. I don't know all the details of it, but you had Tulsi Gabbard, who's in charge of the spies. It really should have an external focus. Was in Fulton County when they grabbed the ballots. David, have you've been in politics for 50 plus years? Have you ever seen anything like that before? Were you in this country? I mean, we see it in other countries, but that's a scary moment for us.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, it's basically, voting is the heart of your democracy, or it's one of the vital organs, let's put it that way, in the political life of a country. So I don't know what to think. It's a strange thing that she would be there, but it's an administration of strange people and strange things.
I think J.B. Pritzker has been right all along. Like, the whole plan has been to disrupt the midterms in the purple states, right? Yeah. You have a militia, you start to discredit the ballots, and you can start to go after the ballots and either delay the elections with the insurrection, or declare fraud and go take over ballots so that you don't lose Congress. I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off because they're Keystone Cops in their execution. But I think that's always been the Stephen Miller, band, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty terrifying. We'll address that. We won't laugh through it if it happens, but I think that's where it's headed. Hey, a couple more topics before we wrap up here. Stephen, we could have done this at the opener, but we had too many politics. For viewers who are been watching this show, I think they'd like to know a little bit about who you are and your background and your journey to this show. You and I are the same age, 59. So
yes.
We don't have quite the wisdom that David has, but we've seen a few things. So tell us a little bit about your life journey.
First off, I'm Black, if you haven't noticed. So, I grew up in the DC, Maryland area. Been here pretty much my whole life. Went to college in St. Mary's College in Maryland, small liberal arts college, and then graduated and was doing a grad school thing, but decided to, sometimes I wonder why, went into restaurants, opened a restaurant with a buddy of mine in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and then ran restaurants for other groups in the DC area. Met my wife while doing so. Been married to her for about 24 years. We have two boys. One's a junior at University of Miami in Florida, and then another is a freshman at Tulane in New Orleans. So two great cities to visit. And then just been a business owner myself now for running a restaurant here in DC. And that's pretty much about that. I mean, the connection that's here is that it's always a small world. That my mother went to Iowa, where David went to school as well, and then both obviously went through divorces, and my mother just started working and met David, and they got married, and so obviously there's the connection that David is my stepfather. Has been so for the past 35 years, I think now. I can't remember. It's so long ago. I don't remember now, but something like
35 years. Yeah.
So that's our connection, is that is my mother is the connector there.
I would also just add briefly that I also went to school with Stephen's dad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Father, and we played football together at the University of Iowa.
Oh, we
Which
should
gives
say
you a perfect.
Stephen's
link.
father played football. You kind of warmed the bench over there, right?
That's right. People used to ask me, what position did you play? And I said, I played ass back. And they said, well, what's that? And I said, well, I get up from the bench to go into the game, and the coach would grab me and say, where are you going? And I said, I'm going into the game. And he says, get your ass back on the bench. But anyway, he's unlike me. Bill, Stephen's father, was very good. He ended up playing professional football and ended up playing for the Washington team in the mid to late 60s.
That's a good segue to the Super Bowl here too. We got
that's why I put it.
A little quick football question here. Very skillfully done, David. You've been in the show business before. Let's get a little prediction here, maybe a little bet going before the Super Bowl. People are calling this the snooze bowl because you got two kind of unglamorous teams who people don't know the star players very well. You got Seattle versus New England, right? But you have a rookie quarterback out in New England who's had an amazing season, Drake May, and then you also have Sam Darnold, who the Vikings let go for some reason and has led their team to the Super Bowl. And then two young coaches, Vrabel in his first year and McDonald, that are just doing amazing jobs. Who do you favor in this one?
Stephen, go ahead.
Well, in my pools that I have, I did select New England, but if I'm putting money down now, I think I have to kind of go with Seattle. My fear with Seattle had always been because Darnold, I think he has like 14 interceptions, which was one of the worst in the league. And I was worried that would just take down Seattle, but their defense is just so good. I just don't know whether New England can defeat that. So I'm going to go Seattle.
You're doing Seattle.
Yes.
How about you, David?
I'm going to go Seattle too. I just think it's their year, and they played so very well, and they're going up against the dynasty. But you always have to remember when you say a dynasty, they were a dynasty for 17 years with Belichick and with their quarterback Brady, and they got to 9 Super Bowls, and I think they won 6 of them. I read this morning. So they're a powerhouse in that historic sense, but it's been a while now. It's been a few years since they've had a decent team, but they've made a huge transition and relatively quickly from all those glory years. So they're going to be tough, but I just think it's Seattle's year, and I'm going with them.
Well, I got to spice this up, right? I love that Seahawk receiver whose name I can't pronounce. JSN. How do you put it? Jackson Smith? I think he's got I'm not even going to try because I don't want to butcher it. But he is an incredible receiver. He catches just anything thrown.
Yeah. From Seattle.
Yeah.
In Jigma, I think it is. And Jigma. Yeah. He's amazing.
Everyone is just calling him JSN now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go New England for just the dumb reason that I've been doubting Mike Vrabel all year and betting against him, and I've been losing. So I am going to not doubt Mike Vrabel. I just think he's the magic coach this year, and there's something about his inspiration. And he's got some good players on that team. Yeah. Drake May's a talent. So I'm going New England on this one.
I think it'll be a fun game to watch. I mean, I'm not interested in seeing dynasties continue to play. These are two kind of new, fresh teams in the sense that of their coaching, and and some of the players. And so, yeah, I like the fact that it'll be an interesting game. And the 4.5 points, I think I saw the spread on this one was for Seattle. So I don't know if that still holds, but we'll see. It doesn't matter if you're out playing in the game. It's the game, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do we bet on this? I'll come to DC and I'll take you guys out to eat at.
There's a really good restaurant. It's called Agua 301. that Stephen owns.
Nice promotion.
Best tacos in DC.
There you go.
Is there a special discount code, Stephen, if they show up after watching this show?
Yeah, they can just mention it, and you'll get that 15% discount. How's that?
You heard it here first. If
All
you
right.
stayed on for 35 minutes with us, you got a discount. Hey, have a great Sunday, David and Stephen. Stephen, it's so fun to have you on the show. This is
nice to do this. Nice to be with Stephen too.
Thank you. It was great great to be on.
You made us more interesting, Stephen. So that's hard to do, but appreciate it.
All right.
Take
Peace.
care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.